There is a word, a single Aramaic word that Jesus spoke in the hills of Galilee, not as a metaphor, not as a poetic flourish, but as a living transmission of power. A word that, when truly understood, dismantles the invisible prison most people live inside every single day of their lives. That prison has a name. It is called illusion. And the terrifying truth is that almost no one inside that prison knows they are trapped. You were not taught this in church. You were not told this in seminary. The translators who handed you your Bible made a choice. And that choice cost humanity 2,000 years of liberation. They took a word of fire and turned it into a word of furniture. They flattened a frequency into a footnote. And right now, in T's moment, that translation error is still shaping how you see yourself, how you see others, and how you see the divine. Jesus did not come to hand you a religion. He came to hand you a key, and the key was hidden in the language he breathed, in the syllables his lips formed, in the ancient Aramaic tongue that vibrated through every miracle, every healing, every moment of impossible transformation recorded in the Gospels. That language is not dead. It never was. It is waiting specifically. It is waiting for you. The word at the center of this teaching is Nura. Say it quietly to yourself right now. Nura. That sound you just made is not random. It is a frequency that the ancient masters recognized as a gateway, not to a distant God, but to the godly already living inside you. And once you understand what Jesus truly meant when he invoked this word, you will never see darkness the same way again. Everything is about to become clear. The world you were taught to see. To understand why Nura matters, you must first understand the problem it was designed to solve. And that problem is not external. It does not live in the government, in your bank account, or in the difficult people who surround you. The problem Jesus was addressing when he spoke of Nura lives in the human perceptual system itself. In the way the unawakened mind filters reality and mistakes, the filtered version for the whole truth. In Aramaic cosmology, the world most humans inhabit is not the real world. It is a world of appearances, of surfaces, of shadows thrown by deeper realities they have never learned to perceive. The ancient Aramaic teachers had a specific term for this fog of misperception. They understood that the human mind, when operating from fear, from conditioning, from cultural programming, generates a false overlay on top of reality. It sees threat where there is invitation. It sees scarcity where there is abundance. It sees separation where there is only communion. This was not considered a moral failure. It was considered a perceptual one. Jesus walked into this fog not as a judge but as a physician. He looked at his disciples, fishermen, tax collectors, zealots, and he did not see broken sinners in need of punishment. He saw people living inside a perceptual prison they did not know existed. His entire ministry, stripped of 2,000 years of doctrinal overlay, can be understood as a systematic program of perceptual liberation. He was not asking people to believe harder. He was asking them to see differently. And the instrument he gave them for that seeing was light, specifically the living Aramaic concept of Nura. The Aramaic word Nura does not mean light the way your bedside lamp produces light. It does not mean illumination as a metaphor for vague spiritual goodness. In its original frequency, Nura means something far more radical. It means the intrinsic luminosity of consciousness itself. It means the light that exists not outside the human being, but as the fundamental nature of the human being. When Jesus said to his followers, "You are the light of the world," he was not offering encouragement. He was making a statement of ontological fact in a language that left no room for metaphor. When modern scholars translate the Aramaic Gospels into English, they almost always render Nura as light and move on. And while that translation is not technically wrong, it is catastrophically incomplete. It is the difference between translating the word fire as warm thing, technically true, missing everything that matters. To truly enter the world of Nura, you must be willing to sit inside the Aramaic frame of reality, which is not Greek, not Roman, not modern Western. It is something older, something more alive, something that vibrates at the intersection of the physical and the divine. In ancient Aramaic, Nura carries 3 simultaneous layers of meaning that a single English word cannot hold. The first layer is physical. Nura is literal light, the photon, the visible spectrum, the sun that rises each morning over the Sea of Galilee. This layer matters, because Aramaic spirituality was never body-denying or anti-physical. The physical world was not an obstacle to God. It was a language through which God spoke constantly. The second layer is cognitive. Nura is the light of understanding, the flash of insight, the moment when a confused mind suddenly perceives the pattern behind the chaos. This is why the Aramaic tradition associated Nura with wisdom, with the clearing of confusion, with a sudden capacity to see what was always there but hidden. The third layer is the one that changes everything. The third layer of Nura is what the Aramaic mystics called divine consciousness. Itself, the luminous awareness that underlies all created reality, the light that existed before the first day of creation, the light that Jesus claimed to be when he said, "I am the light of the world." He was not making a claim of superiority. He was pointing to his own nature as an expression of this third layer Nura, and simultaneously pointing to yours. When he said you are the light of the world, he meant all three layers simultaneously. You are physical. You are capable of insight, and at your deepest level, you are made of the same luminous awareness that underlies all existence. Understanding these frequencies is the first step, but mastering their vibration in your daily life is where the true miracle happens. I receive many messages asking for the correct pronunciation and sequence of these sounds, so I have prepared 2 sacred guides to help you bridge this gap. You can find the link pinned in the comments to begin your practical journey today. If Nura is your fundamental nature, if you are at the level of your deepest being, made of this divine luminosity, then why does so little of that light appear in everyday human experience? Why do people who have been told they are made in the image of God still live in anxiety, in scarcity consciousness, in relentless cycles of fear and reactivity? This is the precise question that Jesus was answering when he taught about NUHRA, and his answer was not what most traditions have taught. The Aramaic teaching does not say the light is absent. It says, the light is blocked. There is a critical distinction here that changes everything about how you approach spiritual transformation. A light that is absent must be sought from the outside, imported from a distant God, earned through religious performance, accumulated over lifetimes of discipline. But a light that is merely blocked needs only one thing: the removal of what is covering it. And this shifts the entire trajectory of the spiritual life. You are not trying to become something you are not. You are trying to see something you already are. The Aramaic teachers identified several primary sources of this blockage, and they used a word for them that is equally poorly translated in your Bible. The blockage was described in terms of a kind of spiritual sleep, a dulling of perception so gradual, so total, that the one who is sleeping does not know they are asleep. This is the illusion that Nura was designed to pierce, not with force, not with punishment, but with the simple, overwhelming power of its own presence. The ancient tradition held that Nura, when truly activated in a human consciousness, does not argue with the illusion. It does not debate with the darkness. It simply appears, and in its appearance, the darkness has no choice but to dissolve. Because darkness is not a thing in itself. Darkness is only the absence of Nura. This is why the miracles of Jesus always carried this quality of sudden, complete reversal. The blind man did not gradually improve his vision. The dead did not slowly regain consciousness. The storms did not gradually calm. The shift was total, immediate, and impossible to explain within the framework of the sleeping world. Because Jesus was not operating from within that framework. He was operating from the frequency of Nura itself, and at that frequency, the rules of the illusory world simply do not apply. Activating Nura in your daily life, here is where the ancient teaching becomes intensely practical. Because Jesus did not speak of Nura as a distant aspiration, as a state reserved for saints and mystics after decades of desert austerity. He spoke of it as immediately available, as something that could be activated right now, in this body, in this life, amid this exact set of circumstances. The kingdom of heaven, he said in Aramaic, is not coming, it is already here, spread upon the earth, and people simply do not see it. The activation of Nura is the capacity to begin seeing it. The first movement toward NUHRA in practical terms is what the Aramaic tradition calls shwaka, a releasing, a letting go of the stories the sleeping mind tells about itself and about reality. Not a suppression of those stories, but a genuine recognition of their constructed nature. When a fearful thought arises about money, about relationships, about the future, the practice of NUHRA does not fight that thought. It turns the light of awareness toward it. And in that turning, in that simple act of illuminated attention, the thought reveals itself as what it always was: a temporary pattern, arising and passing in the field of a consciousness far larger and far more luminous than the pattern itself. The second movement is what the ancient teachers called teshuva aturnin, a reorientation of the entire inner life toward its source. Not a moral reform program, but a perceptual revolution. The practitioner of Nura learns, through repeated experience, that the source of genuine peace, genuine clarity, and genuine power is not outside. It is not in the acquisition of more money, more approval, more security. It is in the recognition of what is already present when the noise of the sleeping world is, even momentarily, stilled. Jesus pointed to this stilling constantly. He went into the wilderness. He withdrew before dawn. He moved into the interior silence, not to escape the world, but to see it with the eyes of Nura, and then return to it with a power the world could not explain. If this teaching is stirring a deep resonance in your heart, it is a sign that your soul is ready to return to its original blueprint. To support you in this transition, my guides explained the layers of meaning behind the first sacred words, offering you a path to clear the interference of the world. The link to access these tools is waiting for you in the pinned comment. The light Jesus saw in you. There is a moment in the Gospels that most people read past without understanding its full revolutionary weight. Jesus looks at a crowd of ordinary people, exhausted people, frightened people, people carrying the weight of Roman occupation and religious condemnation and daily economic survival. And he says to them, directly, without qualification, "You are the light of the world." Not you might become the light. Not you could be the light if you believe hard enough. You are present tense, unconditional, spoken in Aramaic, using the word Nura, which his listeners understood in all three of its layers simultaneously. This was not flattery. This was not motivational rhetoric. In the Aramaic world, to name something was to invoke its reality. When Jesus named his disciples as Nura, he was performing a transmission, an act of perceptual initiation. He was saying, "I see what you are beneath the story you have been told about yourself. I see the luminous nature that your fear and your conditioning and your culture have covered over, and I am naming it now, publicly, irrevocably, because the moment you truly hear this name, the moment it lands not in your intellect, but in your deepest experience of yourself, everything will shift." The practical implications of this teaching for modern human life are staggering. Every dimension of the anxiety epidemic, the loneliness crisis, the epidemic of purposelessness that defines contemporary Western life can be traced, in the Aramaic framework, to a single root: the forgetting of Nura. People are living as though they are in the dark, grasping for external sources of light, for validation, for achievement, for the approval of others, for substances and screens that promise illumination and deliver only a deeper darkness. They are doing this not because they are broken, but because they have forgotten or were never told what Jesus saw when he looked at them. The whole project of this ancient teaching is the remembering. The activation of Nura is, in its deepest sense, simply the act of turning inward far enough to find the light that was never extinguished, only temporarily, and tragically, forgotten. The light was never lost. Everything covered in this teaching points to a single truth that Jesus stated in the clearest possible terms, using the most precise language available to him in the ancient Aramaic tongue. You are made of light, not metaphorically, not aspirationally, ontologically, at the level of your deepest nature, beneath the fear, beneath the conditioning, beneath everything the sleeping world has taught you about who you are and what you are worth. There is Nura, and it has never gone out. It has never diminished. It has never been taken from you. It has only been covered. The word Nura is not a concept to be intellectually grasped and filed. It is a frequency to be inhabited. When Jesus spoke this word in the hills above Galilee, the air around him changed. The people who heard him changed. Not because he gave them new information, but because he activated something in them that was already there. Something their religious culture and their daily suffering had taught them to doubt or to deny entirely. He was restoring them to themselves. And that restoration is what this teaching, in every form it takes across every channel and every generation, is always about. The practical path forward is not complicated, though it requires consistency and genuine commitment. Begin with the sound itself. Nura. Speak it in the morning before the noise of the world begins. Let it settle into your body, not just your mind. Notice what arises. Notice the quality of awareness that is present when you invoke this Aramaic frequency, because that quality of awareness is the very thing the word is pointing toward. You are not calling something down from above. You are calling something up from within. And the ancient promise embedded in this teaching is that what you call up, you will find. Because it was there before you started calling, it was there before you were born. It was there at the first word of creation, when the Spirit of God moved over the face of the waters, and Light Nura was the first thing spoken into being. Visit Divine Light Academy at the link below to access my complete guides and start your journey into the living language of the Masters. But before you go, I want to hear from you. What did you feel during this session? Comment the word restoration below. If you felt a shift in your energy today, we read every response, and your testimony strengthens this entire community of light. We are just scratching the surface of this ancient power. Get ready, because in our next video, I will reveal even deeper Aramaic codes that unlock spiritual authority you've never imagined. Make sure you are subscribed and have notifications turned on so you don't miss this unfolding revelation. Right now, before you close this video, come to the comments and tell us, what did you feel? What shifted? We read every single response, and if this teaching found you today, subscribe to this channel. Every week, we go deeper into the ancient frequency codes that were always meant to be yours.